Imagine standing alone in a forest 30,000 years ago. You have not eaten for 2 days. Your stomach aches with hunger. Every direction is filled with plants. Some bear bright red berries. Others grow thick roots beneath the soil. Tall trees offer seeds and nuts, while vines hang from the branches overhead. Some of these plants could save your life. Others could kill you before sunrise. There is no field guide to carry, no biology class to remember, no internet to search, no poison control center to call. One wrong bite could be your last. So how did ancient humans survive in a world like this? More importantly, how did they ever discover which plants were safe in the first place? At first, the answer seems almost impossible. Surely someone had to make the first mistake. Someone had to eat the wrong berry. Someone had to chew the wrong leaf. Someone had to discover, often in the most painful way imaginable, that nature can be just as deadly as it is generous. But archaeology, anthropology, and evolutionary biology suggest that the real story is far more fascinating than simple trial and error. For most of human history, the natural world was not divided into food and poison. Instead, it existed on a spectrum. Some plants could be eaten freely. Some became edible only after careful preparation. Others were harmless in small amounts but dangerous in larger doses. And a few truly were deadly. The challenge facing our ancestors was not simply avoiding poison. It was learning to navigate an environment filled with uncertainty. Modern people often imagine prehistoric forests as endless supermarkets waiting to be harvested. The reality was very different. Many of the world's most poisonous plants have existed for millions of years, long before humans appeared. Deadly nightshade produces attractive black berries that resemble edible fruit. Hemlock can easily be mistaken for harmless wild herbs by someone without experience. Monkshood contains powerful toxins capable of disrupting the human nervous system. The seeds of castor plants contain one of the most toxic natural substances known. Even beautiful flowers can hide deadly chemistry. Nature rarely places warning labels on its creations. In fact, some of the most dangerous plants are also among the most attractive. Bright colors, sweet scents, and juicy fruit do not necessarily mean safety. Our ancestors had no scientific names for alkaloids, glycosides, or toxic proteins. They could not analyze plants inside laboratories. Yet generation after generation, humans managed to survive, explore new environments, and spread across every continent except Antarctica. Clearly, they were doing something remarkably effective. One common explanation is surprisingly simple. They just watched animals. There is some truth to this idea. Even today, experienced foragers often pay close attention to wildlife. Birds, monkeys, squirrels, deer, and bears all provide valuable clues about local ecosystems. If many animals repeatedly eat the same fruit without obvious harm, it may suggest that the plant deserves closer attention. Ancient humans almost certainly observed the behavior of animals around them. Doing so would have been an essential survival skill. But copying animals blindly would have been a dangerous mistake. Many species can safely consume plants that are toxic to humans. Koalas eat eucalyptus leaves filled with chemicals that would make most other mammals seriously ill. Deer regularly browse plants that people should never touch. Birds can digest berries containing compounds that affect humans very differently. Even our closest relatives, chimpanzees, occasionally eat foods that human digestive systems cannot tolerate in the same way. Nature offers clues. It does not provide guarantees. Our ancestors needed something far more reliable than imitation alone. Over thousands of generations, evolution had already begun providing exactly that. Not through intelligence, not through language, but through something every human experiences every single day: taste. Taste is one of humanity's oldest survival tools. Long before people understood chemistry, the human tongue had already become an early warning system. Think about the last time you accidentally tasted something extremely bitter. Your first reaction was probably not curiosity. It was rejection. You instinctively wanted to spit it out. That reaction is no accident. Many of the toxic chemicals produced by plants belong to a group known as alkaloids. These compounds often taste intensely bitter. Over millions of years, natural selection favored animals that hesitated before swallowing unfamiliar bitter foods. Not every bitter plant is poisonous. Coffee is bitter. Dark chocolate is bitter. Many healthy vegetables have bitter compounds. But throughout evolutionary history, Bitterness often served as an important warning sign. Rather than saying, "This plant will kill you," the human brain simply asked a safer question. Should you really keep eating this? Of course, taste alone was never enough. Some deadly plants are surprisingly mild. Others become dangerous only after digestion. Relying entirely on taste would have been a terrible strategy. Instead, ancient humans appear to have combined many small clues into careful decisions. Anthropologists studying traditional hunter-gatherer societies have observed that unfamiliar foods are rarely eaten carelessly. A new plant is often approached gradually. First, people examine its appearance. Does it resemble a familiar species? Where is it growing? What season is it available? Next comes smell. Many toxic plants produce strong or unusual odors. While smell cannot identify every poison, it provides another valuable piece of information. Only after these observations might someone touch a tiny amount to the skin. If irritation appears, the plant becomes suspicious. If nothing happens, an even smaller amount might touch the lips. Again, they wait. Only then might an extremely small piece be tasted. Not swallowed immediately, simply tasted. Another period of waiting follows. Although no method is foolproof, moving step by step dramatically reduces the risk compared with eating an entire handful of unfamiliar berries. Interestingly, modern survival instructors still teach a version of this cautious process today. It is often called the universal edibility test. Even though the procedure has limitations and should never be considered completely reliable, its basic logic reflects something deeply human. When knowledge is limited, caution becomes a survival strategy. But perhaps the greatest survival advantage our ancestors possessed had nothing to do with individual intelligence. It came from something far more powerful. Memory. Not personal memory. Collective memory. Imagine a small child growing up in a hunter-gatherer community. That child does not begin life by randomly sampling every berry in the forest. Long before taking a first independent walk, countless lessons have already been passed down. This root is safe. Never touch those white berries. Only eat these mushrooms after the first frost. The leaves can heal a wound. The seeds must never be eaten. None of this knowledge exists in books. It lives inside people. Parents teach children. Grandparents correct mistakes. Experienced foragers guide younger members of the group. Over hundreds of generations, individual experiences become shared knowledge. A single dangerous mistake may save countless lives in the future. Unlike instincts, culture can improve much faster than evolution. Genes require thousands of generations to spread. Knowledge can spread in a single afternoon. This ability to learn from one another may have become one of humanity's greatest evolutionary advantages. Instead of every generation starting from zero, each inherited thousands of years of accumulated experience. The forest itself had not become any less dangerous. Humans had simply become better at remembering its rules. Yet one remarkable discovery would eventually allow people to eat plants that had once been considered impossible to consume: fire. Fire changed humanity's relationship with plants forever. Long before the invention of agriculture, our ancestors discovered that heat could transform food in extraordinary ways. Some roots that were nearly impossible to chew became soft enough to eat. Certain seeds released more nutrients after roasting. Others became safer because cooking destroyed or reduced naturally occurring toxins. This was one of the earliest revolutions in human nutrition. Consider cassava, a root that feeds hundreds of millions of people today. Raw cassava naturally contains compounds capable of releasing cyanide. If eaten without proper preparation, it can be extremely dangerous. Yet generations of careful experimentation produced techniques for peeling, soaking, fermenting, drying, and cooking it safely. The danger never disappeared. Human knowledge simply learned how to overcome it. Acorns tell a similar story. Many species contain large amounts of tannins, making them unpleasant and potentially harmful if eaten in quantity. For thousands of years, people learned to crush them, soak them repeatedly in water, and wash away the bitter compounds before turning them into flour. The tree had not changed. Human understanding had. Even ordinary beans remind us how important this knowledge became. Several varieties contain natural toxins that can cause serious illness if eaten raw. A simple act, boiling them thoroughly, transforms them into one of the world's most valuable food sources. Again and again, history reveals the same pattern. nature rarely offered perfect foods. Instead, humans learned how to work with nature rather than against it. Remarkably, the same careful observation that helped people avoid poisonous plants also laid the foundation for medicine. Many plants that could be dangerous in one form became life-saving in another. The bark of willow trees contains compounds that eventually inspired aspirin. Foxglove, once feared for its toxicity, later became the source of medicines used to treat certain heart conditions. Across every continent, generations of healers experimented with leaves, roots, flowers, and bark, slowly building an understanding of which plants could relieve pain, reduce fever, or fight disease. The difference between a medicine and a poison was often the dose. Too little might do nothing. Too much could become deadly. Centuries before chemistry laboratories existed, people had already begun discovering one of the oldest principles in medicine. The same substance can heal or harm depending on how it is used. Today, we rarely face the same challenges. Most of us buy food from supermarkets rather than forests. If we want to identify a plant, we can search the internet in seconds. Scientists analyze toxic compounds inside sophisticated laboratories. Doctors and poison control centers provide immediate advice. Yet there is an irony hidden within modern life. Despite having access to more information than any generation before us, very few people could confidently identify even a handful of edible wild plants growing near their own homes. Much of the practical knowledge that once passed naturally from grandparents to children has quietly faded. Ancient humans did not survive because they were fearless. They survived because they were careful. They observed. They remembered. They shared what they learned. Every poisonous berry that was avoided. Every useful root that was remembered. Every warning passed from one generation to the next became part of humanity's greatest survival technology: knowledge. The forest never became safer. The plants never stopped producing toxins. What changed was humanity's ability to understand the world around them. Perhaps that is the real lesson hidden inside this forgotten chapter of history. Civilization was not built only by stronger tools or sharper weapons. It was also built by countless ordinary conversations around ancient campfires, a parent pointing toward a dangerous berry, a grandparent showing a child which root could be trusted, a hunter returning home with a new discovery. Long before books, schools, or the internet existed, those simple moments became humanity's first encyclopedia, and they may have saved more lives than we will ever know.